traffic tickets. Okay, when the king says you're going to face significant consequences, he means you will, and your family will, and your family's family will be dead. So all of a sudden, these governors, whether they want to or not, are working very hard to make sure that the temple gets rebuilt. Generations have passed since Cyrus has made this decree, and God shows who is still in control. So they finish the temple, are reestablishing the nation of Israel, just as God promised, and it's being facilitated by a pagan superpower. I mean, like, back in the Cold War, that'd be like if Russia had lost everything, the US would put Russia back together, or vice versa. That'd be like North Korea falling apart and South Korea putting North Korea back together. So they finished the temple, they reestablished the nation, facilitated by this pagan superpower, and you enter the book of Ezra. Now, get into Ezra, 20 years go by, the new king's name is Artaxerxes. It's kind of hard to keep these guys in track because there's, about every 20 years there's a new one. For the sake of making it easier on me, for the rest of the message, I'm going to call King Artaxerxes Artie. Okay, he's not around to give me any consequences, so I'm not too worried about it. It's not necessarily biblically accurate, but I'm going to say his name a lot, so I'm calling him Artie. Just so you know, great name for pet fish, Artaxerxes. Okay, because Artaxerxes literally means king of kings, it means power. So you got a fish, a goldfish that's bigger than all the other goldfish in your tank, call him Artaxerxes. Okay, he will reign supreme in your tank. One day, later on, we don't know why, but we believe it was God showing his power. One day, King Artie decided to return the silver and gold utensils. The temple's rebuilt now, but 100 years earlier, all the gold and silver was taken from the temple. He first allows this rebuild, and now this is unheard of. He decides it's time to send the nation of Israel's treasure back home. Okay, it's like South Africa ending apartheid. This is huge. It's not done back in the day. So he calls Ezra in. Ezra's a Jewish leader. Artie knew, and Artie tells Ezra to take all the wealth from one of the treasure cities. You see, these guys have treasure cities set up for all of the nations that they've destroyed and the treasure they've taken from the various nations. They actually have cities filled with treasure from nations that they have conquered. And we don't know the exact details of Artie's meeting with Ezra, so I have a 4-sentence or paragraph paraphrase of what I think that meeting might have looked like. This is the ESV, or the Pastor Ed Standard Version. Okay? Artie says, Ezra? Ezra says, King? Artie says, I have an idea. I want you to take all the treasure that belongs to your people, that currently belongs to my people, back to your people. This is a gift from us to your God, who we don't believe in. Ezra's reply, okay. I'm not sure you understand the gravity of this. Ezra is now allowed to look upon Israel's treasure that has not been seen in over 100 years. And it dawns on Ezra that God is alive, and he is working throughout history, something that has begun a century earlier. And he's been given an incredible opportunity to fulfill a destiny with the wealth that the nation of Israel has originally been given decades, centuries earlier to manage God's money. The problem that Ezra has now is that the treasure is being brought out of the city and it's being laid in front of him. keep bringing gold, they keep bringing silver, artifact after artifact, and by the time the artifacts and the gold and silver are laid out, there are 25 tons of gold and silver laying in front of Ezra. Ezra's thinking, yeah, Jerusalem is 900 miles from here. No Semis or via rail back in the day. Okay, no interstate, no CP, no Beaver bus lines, nothing like that. That's a 4-month trip. Okay? Word's gonna get out what they're transporting across the desert. You thought piracy was a problem today. Piracy was huge back then. They are going to be lucky to escape with their lives, never mind, a treasure. This is a very scary situation. I think I've told some of you this story before, but just in case I haven't, this is a mild version of what's going on. Okay? When I was in college, we took a trip to a missions festival called Urbana, which was in Illinois. On the way back from the missions festival, we decided to stop in Chicago for a day and go up to the top of the Sears Tower, which at the time was the tallest office building in the world. And the other thing you have to do when you go to Chicago is you have to go out for pizza. Chicago deep dish pizza. We're talking like this thick, okay, with crust that's only that thick. The deep dish pizza you get in Winnipeg, by the way, that's this thick, has this much crust. Okay? The Chicago deep dish pizza has this much crust and sausage. Oh, it's amazing. I've only had it once. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, the story. Yeah, right. I was thinking about the pizza. We didn't know where the pizza place was. We were looking for a place called Gino's Pizza. It's one of, if not the most famous deep dish pizza restaurants in Chicago. The girls kept on telling us, the guys, to stop and ask for directions. But the guy said, no, it's okay, we'll find it. Okay, so we kept on looking and we kept on looking and we kept on driving around Chicago and we kept on getting in seedier and seedier and seedier areas of Chicago, and all of a sudden we hear behind us, whoop, 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 right? There's a police car pulling us over. Now I know I'm Pastor Ed and that's a tradition for me, but back then it wasn't. Okay? And they pulled us over and we're trying to figure out what's wrong. I mean, we have Canadian license plates, so maybe that's it. The police officer, African American police officer, gets out of his car. His partner also gets out. Okay? They both have their hands on their guns. Okay, they're not out of their holster yet, but they're looking around, they got their hands on their guns. Comes up, and they see 7 white Canadians in a van with Canadian license plates. And I will paraphrase and put a bleep in, okay? He said, and I quote, "What the bleep are you guys doing here?" And we said, "Excuse us, we're just looking for pizza." He goes, "Listen, don't say another word. Follow us now." He turned on his lights and we followed him out of an area. When we got he took us all the way to Gino's Pizza. But when we got there, he said, there was a good chance that we would not make it out of that neighborhood. We may not have been killed or anything like that, but significant damage would have been done to the vehicle and perhaps our persons based on the racial tensions in that neighborhood at that time. They weren't even sending in white cops at that time. So here is Ezra. Got to cross a desert with 24 tons of silver and gold, and it's going to take him 4 months. And Ezra was thinking, I don't know, do I do this? But then he realized, after much prayer and consideration, that this opportunity to manage God's finances was worth a whole lot more than deep dish pizza. So he chose 24 trusted leaders. He put together 24 crews. Each crew got together wagons and carts necessary to transfer this wealth 900 miles through the desert to Jerusalem. And Ezra knew it was dangerous, and something in him wanted to ask for an armed escort. He wanted to ask Artie, give us your weapons and your might to get stuff. But the problem was he had already told Artie how mighty